Most monitors nowadays run at a 60Hz refresh rate, which is fine, but is it optimal? For a casual player maybe, but what about a more competitive player? Does a 144Hz really give you enough to justify its purchase? Let's talk about it. Want your game reviewed or just want to talk about Overwatch or anything in general? Feel free to send me a message on Discord by joining my server. Link is in the description. Now, I'm going to assume that you know what these two things are, that being a 60Hz monitor and a 144Hz monitor, and I'll just simply be going over my experience and whether or not I personally think it's worth the purchase. I don't have G-Sync or FreeSync, so I won't be talking about those. So switching from 60Hz to 144Hz just felt amazing. Just plugging it in and looking at the desktop amazed me, but it even got better when I hopped into Overwatch. I jumped into a game with a friend, and for the first little while, I honestly was just looking around because of how smooth the movement was. It just felt so good. The difference is so visible for a fast-paced game like Overwatch. The smoothness of everything just feels so much nicer to play on. Not only that, but I find that tracking targets is a lot easier to do with the smooth movement from my crosshair as well as the smooth movement from the characters moving. Having the improved refresh rate would also seem to improve reaction time. A question some of you may be asking is, will it improve my aim? And I would say it does, just indirectly. Just getting a 144Hz monitor won't instantly make you better at aiming, but the fact that the movement feels a bit slower and smoother feels like it assists you in a way. Having the increased amount of frames displayed is definitely a big plus, and it makes it feel like aiming is easier. Now, it's not impossible to play on a 60Hz monitor. I actually peaked top 500 in Season 3 with a 60Hz monitor, so it's not to say that it's mandatory to have a 144Hz in order to climb or to get better, but if you're someone who's really competitive, then I personally think it's worth the investment. Having it won't suddenly make you go from diamond to top 500, but it'll definitely make reading information much more pleasant and make it easier to read, and perhaps for you, make it easier to track targets. If you're already bad at aiming, then grabbing a 144Hz monitor will not suddenly make you good at aiming. It'll help, but it isn't some sort of get good fast solution, but it's instead a way to enhance your ability to aim at targets, read movement, and make the game feel more responsive. For games that are fast-paced like Counter-Strike or Overwatch, the game is just so smooth and it feels so much more responsive that it changes how the game feels. As for a game like League of Legends, while I did notice a little bit of difference, it wasn't enough to suggest warranting a 144Hz monitor. A 60Hz monitor is just fine, and in my opinion is enough for competitive players that like to play games like League of Legends. The game definitely looks nicer, but it doesn't really change anything gameplay wise. The game simply doesn't have enough fast-paced movement nor requires as much precision as an FPS game to give you a competitive edge. Something to note is that if you aren't able to consistently achieve 144 FPS in game, then you won't be getting the most out of your 144Hz monitor. It'll feel smoother, but you'll probably want to make sure that you can achieve the consistent 144 FPS before considering purchasing one. So if you don't have a powerful enough computer to go alongside the monitor, then you should probably consider lowering your settings or perhaps upgrading your computer before looking to purchase one. When I initially set up my 144Hz monitor, I didn't have my other parts for my new computer yet. I was still using an old rig, but with my monitor coming early, I just decided that I might as well set it up. It felt really amazing, but when your FPS drops back towards 60, it just begins to feel like a 60Hz monitor all over again. Another thing to consider is the price. You have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? If you're a competitive gamer with money to spend, looking to get the upper edge and enhance your experience with gaming, then I would suggest doing so. The difference is definitely worth it. So that's it for this video. If any of you guys have a 144Hz monitor, feel free to share your experiences with the upgrade from a 60Hz monitor to a 144Hz monitor below. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.